Parents, the following program is intended for people over the age of 13. If your kids are younger than that, please use the YouTube Kids app.
Welcome to Scary Stories, the channel that tells you scary stories.
Peter Bernard's Scary Stories for Adults.
Welcome to Scary Stories NYC. I'm Henry Lee Dogman, filling in for Bigfoot, who is pretending he doesn't actually exist. I've got two all-new stories for you, both of them about my people, the North American upright walking canid, or Dogman. These are both a little creepy, so I hope you're comfortable and in a warm, dry, safe place. Please don't operate heavy machinery or drive a car during these stories, as we can't be responsible for what might happen. Are your lights dimmed? Is your popcorn ready? Well then, let's get started with our first scary story, which we call The Return of the Colorado Wolfman. Dear Scary Stories NYC, much has been made of late of the sightings of wolves in Colorado, where they had been extinct for quite some time. I've got even bigger news. The Colorado Wolf Man is back too. Call him Dogman if you will, but whatever the name is, that is what I saw, and I saw it in the pine forest near Sylvan Lake State Park in Colorado. Me and my buddy like to camp there. Why? Because we get to be out in the wild all alone. But if something goes wrong, the state park people and the safe designated camping area are right nearby. If trouble ever happened, we could have run to them, crying for help. We never had actually done that, but it was reassuring knowing that they were there if need be. We ended up being pretty glad we made that choice after the Dogman showed up. We had set up camp in a clearing in the woods that we had used before. There was still a remnant of our old fire pit that we rebuilt a bit, then lit a fire. It felt great to be out in the woods in our old private spot again. We had many good memories of camping in those woods, especially when we were able to get this clearing to ourselves. Night settled in, and something felt off. I know I wasn't the only one to feel it because my buddy was acting out of the ordinary as well. He didn't want to tell scary stories after we ate, which we always like to do. He kept speaking quietly and looking around, but when I would ask him what was going on, he would say nothing. We started hearing howling, and we both decided to hit the sack. We had one tent we both slept in and 2 sleeping bags. We stomped out our fire and retired to our bags. Have you ever felt so tired that you just had to go straight to sleep and not have any conversation beforehand? We were both like that on this particular night. It was like we were reporting for sleep more than falling asleep. Well, I must have been conked out because I woke up shocked when an incredibly loud howl came from directly above me and outside the tent. Both of us jumped up and looked around, trying to figure out what was going on. The howl was followed by a kind of a rumbling growl that I would normally associate with a big cat. I mean, a tiger-sized big cat. It sounded like something man-eater-sized was right outside the tent. It sounded as though the sound were coming from above us, so I thought maybe it was in a tree ready to pounce on us. As I woke up a bit more, I remembered that we were camped in a clearing. There were no tree branches above us, so how could a big cat be in a tree above? The growling grew more aggravated and became a sort of a barking or snarling. I abandoned the idea of a cat lurking overhead. This sounded like something more canine. Dogs don't generally climb trees anyway. I might have decided I was imagining the entire thing, except that my buddy was sitting right there, looking at least as scared as I was looking. That meant, whether I liked it or not, this was actually happening. This was a real occurrence, a genuine event. Some large, angry animal was outside our tent. Was he angry at us? Or was there conflict between two predators going on outside? Was prey being stalked outside the tent? Were we the prey? I had a lot of questions, but I was kind of afraid to find out any of the answers. We heard a sound that I had never heard before and have never heard since. It was an odd, scratching kind of sound. We looked at each other and all around until we figured out there was a single claw. That claw was stuck into and through our tenting. It was slowly being dragged from one side to the other. We were being opened like a sardine can. I freaked out and hit towards the claw, trying to get it to stop. Instead, the owner of that claw drew it across the material even faster, and the flap over us opened to reveal the strangest creature that could possibly exist on God's green earth. It was a dog, a snarling, angry, growling, yowling dog, and it was standing on its hind legs above us, looking down on us, drooling on our sleeping bags. It was using its front claws to tear our tent apart. It stood like a man, even though it was clearly a dog. I don't mean it looked like a werewolf or a mix between a dog and a man. I mean it looked like a very large, muscular dog, and it was standing up all on its own. Nothing about it seemed supernatural to me, but it did seem intelligent. Not just smart for a dog, but this creature appeared as though it were as intelligent as any man. The rest of the story is us screaming like babies and running like children. We embarrassed ourselves and ran like cowards, but we got away from that thing. I suspect it could have captured us, or worse, had it really wanted to. So maybe it only wanted to scare us off. We ran to the camping community there, and boy did people laugh at us. We deserved it though, running into camp seeing an upright walking dog tore up our tent site. We never went back. We just got out of there that night, not even waiting till the morning. But the important thing to me is that we have established, well, at least in our own minds, that without a doubt, in our opinion, we witnessed with our own eyes the return of the Colorado Wolfman. Normally I'd say stay tuned for the next story, but there's nothing normal about this next story, so let's jump to it right now. Normally, Dogman of Normalsville. Dear Scary Stories NYC. Back a couple of decades ago when I was in my early 20s, some buddies of mine and I decided to go camping. We chose this camping area north of Normalsville, Pennsylvania, mainly just because we liked the name Normalsville. We liked to make cracks about how normal Normalsville was. Look at that normal girl. Look at that normal dog. We thought we were really funny, but the people of Normalsville apparently already heard these jokes back when they were 3 or 4 years old. They weren't impressed by our wit, to say the least. We felt superior to all the normies when we were there. We were like, hey, Normalsville girls, we're the boys from Weirdsville. We thought we were so wild, but we would soon meet a genuinely wild animal who would put us in our place. One thing I've learned since that experience is that if you want to see weird stuff happen, just plan on having a boring day. Expect normalcy. Go to Normalsville, at least in a figurative sense, and there, in Normalsville, you will find the weirdest things that you could ever possibly find. So, okay, We rented a trailer for a night this one time because we had some extra cash that week, and we were having our own private little party, believe me. I mean, that's what people that age tend to be like, and we were that age. When we would bring tents and camp out there, we were always kind of a slight bit on guard, even when we were on campgrounds within sight of other people's camps, on land that we were paying to camp on. We treated security almost as seriously on a family campground as we did when we were out in genuine wilderness. Out in the wild, you need to protect yourself against scavengers, predators, and insects. In campgrounds, unfortunately, you've got to protect yourself against your fellow humans. I don't mean the proprietors, who have all seemed very cool to me every place I've gone in my life, but the owners don't always know who they're renting to, if you know what I mean. Plus, we felt at the time it was best to stay in practice while camping, to always stay on alert and be prepared for emergencies. Well, we abandoned all that on this night when we rented that trailer. We brought a TV with us. There was a game on we wanted to see. We brought food and drinks, and we had totally let our guard down. We were set to party in Normalsville. We knew nothing could go wrong in the most normal place in America, or at least in Pennsylvania. That feeling of being safe and on vacation carried over when we decided to go for a nature walk at dusk before the game started. We took off into those trees, hooting and hollering and laughing our butts off. We were like kids that night. We were just happy and had set aside all our real-life worries and problems for that night. I felt lighter than I had for many years. That was why, when I first saw it, I actually laughed. No, not the Dogman. What I saw was off to the side of the path, in between some trees. It was a very thin, sickly-looking creature. I'll try to describe it to you, but it's not like anything I ever saw before, so I'm not sure what to compare it to. It was an awful mix of light gray, greenish yellow, and white, and its arms and legs ended in what appeared to me to be pincers, like curved knife arms and legs ending in sharp points. One of my buddies says the hands actually ended in these sort of sharp-pointed tweezers. Maybe they did, I'm not certain. The torso was thin, and there was a kind of a head on top that did not appear to have a mouth on it. It was sort of like an upside-down teardrop coming up out of the thin body, and had black bug eyes all around it. I guess you could say it was sort of like Roswell gray space alien eyes, except that they were a little more oval or rounded. They bugged out of the face, and they continued all the way around the gray head. In other words, it had more than two eyes equally spaced, 360 degrees all the way around the head, all positioned at the same height on a horizontal line. I couldn't count them all, but I would guess that it had 8 or more eyes, and that it could literally see behind it as well as in front. The creature appeared to be standing about 4 feet tall, hunched over. When I called the guy's attention to it, the thing took off on its pincers, now dropping to all fours and speeding away so quickly that he appeared to be a blur and a breeze. We ran over to where he had been and saw the pincer holes in the dirt where he had walked. There was no doubt we had seen something physical, real, and alive. We wanted to find out what it was. Off into the brush we tore like idiots. We made so much noise, I'm sure we scared half the forest away. But we really thought we were going to catch that gray alien praying mantis spider thing. Fat chance. Still, we were nothing if not persistent, and soon it was dark, and we were deep into the woods. We would be about to give up the chase, then someone would shout, "There it is!" and off we would all charge like carnivorous buffalo. What were we going to do if we caught up to it? Ask for its autograph? We didn't bring rope, so we couldn't tie him up and take him to the authorities. We didn't have weapons, so I don't know how we would be able to fend off his sharp pincer hands if he decided to attack us. We didn't have a plan. We didn't know where we were going. It was getting darker and darker out, and worst of all, My buzz from the party was seriously beginning to wear off. My friends took to calling the thing the Stick Man, and so the racing through the dark woods continued on with shouts of Stick Man coming from left, right, front, back, and center. I really wanted to go back to the trailer and watch the game, but by that point, I wasn't 100% sure which direction the trailer was even in. We all collected ourselves almost by accident, and at that point I myself once again saw the actual Stick Man. We all did. We watched as it ran into an unnaturally dark patch of the forest. I mean, it looked as though it had run into a cave, but there was no cave there. It was just the space between some trees, and yet it looked dark as India ink. Imagine a black hole in the forest, and that little freaky Stick Man ran by on his pincer arms and legs and ran inside. We all stopped in amazement, frozen to our spots. We all knew what we had seen, but nobody wanted to admit it. One of my friends, let's call him Mel, said, "It's a cave. We just can't see the edges of it from here, that's all." We were somewhat dubious about Mel's theory, although none of us wanted to present any theories of our own. We just made non-committal noises and continued to mill about, frozen to our spots. "Come on, I'll show you," said Mel, and off he marched, across the open field, directly toward that black hole in the trees, which the pincer man had disappeared into. I wanted to call out to him not to go, but I felt frozen. I wasn't sure what was right or wrong to do. I just wanted to go back and watch the game and pretend we never saw that weird thing. I watched. We all watched, as Mel walked straight into the deep darkness. And then we couldn't see him anymore either. There was a period of us not looking at each other, hoping against hope that Mel would come back out again. He never did, and we all knew we were going to have to make a decision. We were either going to have to abandon him, or we were going to have to go over there and try to have our own look inside that unnaturally dark area in the trees. We opted for the latter and began cautiously sort of sidling over to the event horizon of that thing. Remember, we had no idea what we were looking for or what was looking for us. We didn't know what was headed our way, and we had no idea what to expect. We whispered Mel's name and got closer and closer to the darkness. It was an experience somewhat like sticking your head under water. The further we moved forward, the more the air looked liquid. It was still air, we could still breathe normally, but the look of it was this underwater sort of look. Almost like you were peering into a snow globe, I guess. It's hard to explain, and I don't really have many reference points to compare it to other things. It was not just a cave, and it was not just a dark area. Those are the main takeaways. There was a sound from inside the darkness, and we all called Mel's name, praying it was him so we could get out of there. It was not Mel. Out of the pitch blackness leaped a creature that, merely by appearing in front of us, set us to screaming and running. We no longer cared that our friend had walked into that darkness. The appearance of this creature changed all that, reversing every priority in our minds and resetting us all in fight or flight mode. It was a big, hairy, scary, pointy-eared werewolf, bigger than any of us. It looked like something from a big-budget horror movie. I mean, this was top-of-the-line monster design. This was a nightmare, but it was not an illusion. It was really there. It had a dog head, bigger than a golden retriever's. It was seriously like a dinosaur-headed dog, but it stood up on its massive tree-trunk thick back legs and held these monster claws out in front of it that looked like they could tear a rhinoceros to shreds. It had teeth wider and longer than any dog I'd ever encountered. It looked like an animal from prehistoric times, and it looked insanely agitated. Or maybe insanely hungry. We ran. Mel was an afterthought. Our curiosity about the gray praying mantis stickman was gone. Nothing existed inside us except the survival instinct. And all that we were in those moments was adrenaline and fear. We ran like never before and like we will never run again. Someone knew the way back to the trailer and I followed him. I would never have found the way back in the dark by myself. We threw ourselves inside and locked the door, throwing the weight of our bodies against it in case we were being chased. And then we broke down in tears. I know grown men aren't supposed to cry, but on that night we had no choice. We had just survived something traumatic, and we were completely shaken up. We wept until we were finished weeping, and then we all sat there in utter silence. "You guys okay?" came a voice from out of the darkness in the trailer. We all screamed and almost ran back outside again until we saw it was Mel. He was safe. He was in the trailer. We asked him what happened, but he said he didn't remember. "I was walking into that black cave thing," he told us, "and then I was watching you little babies cry your dear sweethearts out," he mocked us viciously, but he hadn't seen the Dogman, so he didn't know what we had just been through. And so that is the story of how fate got even with us for laughing at the name of the town of Normalsville. We had the weirdest night of our life in Normalsville, and we promised never to mock the place ever again. That's the lesson we got taught by the Dogman of Normalsville.
I'd like to take a moment to say that if you have a scary story you'd like to tell us here, you can write Peter at peterbernard.com, or you can call our new Scary Stories hotline number and leave it to us in the form of a voicemail message. It's easy to remember. 804-LESCARY. That's 804-LESCARY, or 804-537-2279.
And now, get ready for an all-new, completely uncensored, slightly bloody, and absolutely terrifying new Dogman story. Oh, wait. YouTube won't allow me to tell you stories like that on this channel. If you want to hear that, you're going to have to go to peterbernard.com and sign up for our paid subscribers club. You can choose any price you can afford for a 1-month subscription, and then every weekend we tell you a story YouTube would never allow us to tell you on this channel. See you this Sunday for an all-new, very scary, completely uncensored Dogman story.
If you enjoyed this, please click like or consider subscribing. Remember to click the bell icon or you won't get notifications. If you want to listen to Bigfoot's secret uncensored story each Sunday, just go to peterbernard.com and become a paid subscriber. See you tomorrow. Same dog time, same dog channel.
Come back for more scary stories.